Hi, everybody. This is Kris Kovacs coming to you live from Constellation Digital Partners. And we're super excited today because we are rebooting and starting our Meet the Fintech series again. And we've got a really exciting partner that I wanted to introduce you to. So joining me today is Jim Van Dyke, founder and CEO of Breach Clarity. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Kris. Thanks for having me here.
We're very excited. You've got a really neat product, and I can't wait to share it with our credit unions. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what Breach Clarity is?
Sure. With multiple data breaches occurring every single day, which creates fraudulent account origination, ATO, card fraud, friction, attrition, call center costs, just all kinds of no good things. Breach Clarity is the first and only method that dynamically builds a breach history for every single credit union member. And we do this in order to build financial health and reduce costly identity theft and scams and fraud threats that hit credit unions all day long.
How did you guys come up with the idea for Breach Clarity?
Well, it was actually kind of an accident. I never set out to do it. So after I sold Javelin Strategy and Research, company I founded and ran for 13 years, I became an expert witness on the nation's largest data breaches. So I was in courtrooms as the expert witness, the main guy on cases like Equifax, Facebook, Anthem, you name it. And I thought, boy, these cases that I'm winning for trial attorneys that are suing the organizations that create credit union and banks fraud problem, but I'm not doing the thing that I vowed to do, which is create goodness for everybody. And that's what I'm really passionate about. So I took this method that just was so convincing and solid in the courtroom. And I said, let's turn it into a fintech product. And essentially, like I said, it for any data breach, it just looks at the credentials that were exposed. And I found that's findable information in the public record. And it converts that into fraud threats dynamically with AI and algorithms. And then from there, it takes all these action steps that would protect credit unions and members' bottom line if we could only get them to use them. Breach Clarity was invented as a way to take that courtroom knowledge and put it in credit unions' hands so they could partner closer with members.
Jim, how does Breach Clarity work?
Well, it's an AI algorithm method connected to a database of literally every data breach in the United States. And it's also connected to the dark web. And these are, there's some great dark web tools out there, but this time we find they bring credit unions, members, dark web tools, and algorithms together. And so it works by combining that information and turning it into a financial health app, which is just as consumer friendly and based on our data going to be just as popular as free credit scores. So the member just simply logs into their credit union sites. They see the Breach Clarity widget wherever the credit union wanted to put it. And then from there, they find out where they were breached, what their unique breach history means to their fraud risk profile, and most importantly, exactly what they should do to lower their fraud risk and the credit union's loss risk.
What are the benefits for a credit union or member that uses Breach Clarity?
So the benefits, we believe, will be very powerful. So we bring members and credit unions closer together, within the backdrop of threats that affect both parties. And this will, when you think about consumer spend or retail spend on products like LifeLock being $4 billion a year, we know that consumer motivation is really, really high. So then why don't they take credit unions' advice or use their digital tools that would lower fraud losses or get people out of the call center? Well, it's because we're giving everybody a one-size-fits-all prescription. And if my doctor gave me a one-size-fits-all prescription, I would run for the hills. And that's why members don't listen to their credit union. So the benefits are get people out of the call center, get them using the tools, lower fraud risk, and tighten the relationship. Get the relationship between member and credit union tighter than it would be at a competing bank.
Jim, when will Breach Clarity first be available?
We have one credit union that I promised that can be the very first, like in the first day of October. And we are ready to onboard anybody from Constellation as soon as October 2nd. And we are planning a nationwide press release on October 5th. And these dates are really important because with our microservices-based version, or SSO, we can implement in a matter of weeks. It's really simple. People can take a crawl, walk approach and then integrate on the Constellation platform later, but it's available now. And it could be going within 30 days, frankly. So the product is working after 4 years of work.
So Jim, let me ask you a question. Does that mean you have to be a Constellation credit union in order to use Breach Clarity?
No, any credit union can deploy this to their members.
So the neat part about what we're going to do next is we're going to throw it to Al, and Al's going to give us a demonstration of the product itself. So Al, show us what you've got.
Thanks, Kris. Today we're going to be demonstrating Breach Clarity Premium, which is designed to be integrated into the digital banking environment. Now I want to note that we have a prototype available for the Constellation platform. So as your credit union moves from your existing digital banking platform provider to Constellation, we'll be ready. In this example, I am a customer of Grower Financial, and I have a question about a data breach. Now we know that nearly half of all consumers have contacted their credit union or bank before to ask questions about a data breach. But in this case, Grower Financial has a digital tool that I can use to get answers. And draw your attention to the Breach Clarity widget. There are a few different ways that we want to engage with the member. Now, maybe the member has a question about an email they received from Breach Clarity that said, hey, we found your information on the dark web. There was a data breach somewhere that you weren't aware of, but we've done the legwork. We found out for you. Let's get you educated. And they would see that right here. Or maybe there are still steps left for them to take as part of their identity roadmap that are still, as of yet, undone. We also want to expose that information to the member so they know that there are still steps left to take. We can also reach out to them via email to send reminders. But going back to my example, maybe it's just a question about a data breach, a very specific data breach I just saw on the news. Well, in that case, I can type in the name of that breach, any breach publicly reported in the last 4 years, and get answers. There are a few things I'm going to get using Breach Clarity. One is a score on a scale of 1 to 10. Think of it like a Richter scale for data breaches. And this is very meaningful for the member because up to this point, they've had no good way to discern just how meaningful any breach is. The news can make it seem like all breaches are the same, that they're the worst thing ever, when in reality, every breach is different. So this is a way to know at a glance just how meaningful a breach is for my identity. I'm also going to learn about the top risks to my identity from among 12 different potential risks. And all of this is customizable. So if there's a way that you talk about this in your security center, we can bring that information right into the platform. But where the rubber really meets the road is in the action steps. So for each and every data breach, we are going to provide a very specific prescription, a list of actions from among the 51 different actions that we can prescribe. And consider that 65% of the time, we're actually going to recommend at least one action that they can take at the credit union. Now, in this example, if I was to click through here, it would take me to the security center for Grower Financial. But I wanted to point this out because within the Constellation platform, we literally are able to put the toggle right in the action step for certain controls at the credit union, greatly shortening the distance between that member and all these great self-service security controls that you've invested in, but that you just can't get members to take advantage of. One other thing I wanted to show you is the ID dashboard. Now, as we build out a breach history for that member, we're going to take that information and turn it into an identity safety roadmap, which is basically a prioritized prescription just for them. And as they take those actions, they're going to be deprecated or removed from the list. At the same time, we're going to remind them on occasion of the things they have yet to do. Now they're being provided tailored advice about their identity in a way that's very meaningful, that's just for them, and that puts those credit union controls right at their fingertips. reinforcing the trust that they have in the relationship with you. Because not only are you providing peace of mind, but you're providing true security to that member, greatly strengthening the relationship. And that's where we want to partner with you, is in strengthening the relationship with the member around the security of their identity and accounts. Breach Clarity dramatically changes the way that you're engaging members around their security and their identity and makes it a positive experience that is specific for them. That's Breach Clarity, Kris.
Thanks, Al. That was really very helpful in order to see what Breach Clarity can do. So Jim, one of the things we like to do on Meet the FinTech is we really like to ask founders if there's a lesson they've learned that they could pass on to other FinTechs and other founders. Is there something you have found or discovered along the way as you were building Breach Clarity?
You know, for me, there's a lot of lessons. I worked with the original PayPal team, with a lot of folks along the way. There's so many, which is another way of saying I'm kind of old. But one of the lessons I've learned is just to stay with your core principles. So when we get a question about our product design or who we want to partner with first or anything else, and just the combination of paths we could take get confusing, I come back to our core principle, which is how do we, this is beyond just making money. How do we make sure we serve as many individuals, in our case, identity holders, through the preferred types of institutions, those who want to work with first, which is credit unions. We eventually will work with everybody because we're going to be the global Richter scale of data breaches. I think the world will be a better place if every data breach has a number, just like an earthquake or a hurricane. And you can actually go to our free website and get just that, but you can't get the extra things that add lots of value to the bottom line of a credit union member. But again, summarize that, I've learned to simplify everything, simplify all the noise by finding out what your core principles are and making every decision around that.
Jim, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I'll just say this because this couldn't be more important to me in my own priorities. We are, like credit unions, member focused or mission focused. That's what matters first and foremost to us. Having said that, we are investor funded startup and we need to get some clients on now, as our investor likes to remind us. Why am I repeating that at the end of our conversation? Because we're turning that into an offer that it's definitely as low as our pricing ever will be.
If someone's interested in learning more about Breach Clarity, how can they find out more information?
We're doing something unusual in that a very, very basic version of our product is free to everybody online at breachclarity.com. So why would we do that and then license a product through credit unions? It's because we're creating the Richter scale of breaches and we have to. But go to breachclarity.com. You'll see a super thin, proof of concept, but working version of the product. Most importantly, there's a contact us form on there, or just skip all that and email me at jvd@breachclarity.com, jvd@breachclarity.com.
I really appreciate you appearing on Meet the FinTech. I think it was a great interview and I look forward to sharing it with our credit unions. Thank you so much for coming online today.
Thanks, Kris, and everybody else at Constellation as well. Have a great day.
You too.